Welcome back to Muscle Minds with Dr. Scott Stevenson. I'm Scott McNally. This show is brought to you by TrueNutrition.com. Our code is ADVICES, and you guys can use that code to get some additional savings on great products, and as well as it'll help to support the program. Dr. Scott, you just got back. I'll say just got back. It's been a week now from Team Universe. This is something we have not talked about. I didn't even know you were competing for some time. First of all, congratulations on the third place in the 40 and over Masters division. That was pretty badass. You looked fantastic. I'll say this, man. I feel like some things didn't go the way you wanted previous time you competed, and that was earlier.
2 years ago, right?
Yeah, that was like earlier in our stint of starting this podcast. So I didn't know you nearly as well then as I do now. But you I would say have definitely redeemed yourself at this contest. So I wanted to first of all say congratulations on doing an awesome job. I hope you had a fun time, and now that it's all over, I want to be able to talk about this with you. I want to hear about your experience.
First of all, thank you for the notion of having redeemed myself, but I don't think there was anything to redeem, to be honest.
Yeah?
Because I didn't do anything. I didn't drop the ball in any way, shape, or form.
Okay. But you did something different, and it worked better. I'll say that. I thought you looked a lot better at this show.
2 years ago is when I had the debacle with my dog, Rusty. The one I dedicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I posted a video. It's on Instagram somewhere from like 3 or 4 weeks out before that show.
Okay.
I don't know if you can pull it up, baby, but it was just me posing in the gym. I came across it at some point on my phone. I'm always having to like take shit off my phone because I fill it up with junk. Most of it's Instagram stuff. I have to like probably uncheck that because it automatically saves everything. I just get a mess of stuff.
Yeah.
But I was in shape. I learned a tremendous lesson because I had like the perfect storm of catastrophe happening. Yeah. And it was funny because we were, this time I stayed with some friends. It's part of the reason why I did the show. I'll explain it when we get going. But, and they went to the Walmart that was involved with that whole debacle. And I laughed because I had seen the Walmart when I was looking around for places to shop this year, and they'd gone to the Walmart, and I'm like, oh, I know that Walmart. It's just a disaster in there. It looks like someone took the whole building and flipped it upside down and put it right back up. Like, and they're like, yeah, like, I don't know how they even inventory anything. There's just like stacks of pallets. I'm like, yes, that Walmart like was just one small sliver of what happened 2 years ago. I went to that Walmart. I was there for like 2 hours.
Okay.
Waiting in line. It was like there were zombies at the checkouts. I'll never forget it. It was just bizarre.
Yeah.
And it was actually in that Walmart when I was in the checkout line after my plane had been delayed, and I tried to go to one grocery store that closed at 5 on a Thursday or something or 6. I think it was 6 o'clock. I went to it was like a downtown one.
Wow.
Literally, I drove around, like I parked, found a parking spot, paid the meter. Had to go. I think I had to like download an app so that I could pay the meter, and I paid the meter, and then I walked in, and then a police officer said, "Oh, sorry, we're closing now. You can't shop."
Come on.
I was like, okay. The next place, I went to the Walmart. Blah blah blah. No one spoke English. I was looking for rice cakes.
Yeah.
And no one knew what those were.
You're kidding me.
No, literally. I mean, there was a language barrier, and sometimes people don't even know people don't eat those really as much nowadays. It was just, and then I was in line. And I tried to do the line hop. Oh, that's a faster line. No, it's not. And I'm like, And then my pet sitter called, and I had made an error of judgment of hiring her. Mm-hmm. And she actually knocked my dog Rusty into the pool at night when it was dark. And then she went in to get him. And he was biting her because he was scared. And she called me in a panic. And was like, I don't know if I couldn't tell if she was hurt or if Rusty had been hurt. It was like this really bad scenario. So that was just the start of the weekend. So it was the most stressful situation for me personally. You basically taking my family, my dog.
Right.
And imagine someone had taken one of your parents or siblings hostage.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like I'm like I need to be back there. Like my dog is not safe.
Yeah.
He was deaf and losing his hearing and canine cognitive, and she was sending me a message. She said I come up to him sometimes to pet him and he kind of snaps at me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's because he's asleep and you're touching him when he's asleep and you're scaring him.
Right.
Because you knocked him in the pool previously. Now, so my dog's traumatized by this woman, and she's not smart enough to figure out that you to come up on a sleeping dog who you previously did that to.
Right.
It's going to freak him out, you know.
She's scared you're going to throw him in the pool again. You know, that's what he's afraid of.
I don't know. Like I'm thinking, so every time she's going to my dog and she's repeatedly traumatizing, and it's kind of like, oh my God. So you can imagine. So that was what was happened 2 years ago.
Yes.
Just wreaked havoc on my physique.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a great experience for me because most things would have, like this time, for instance. Oh God, I hope she doesn't listen. But my pet sitter, she tends to be a little paranoid, and she had some panicky things she was telling me about. Actually, Foxy, who's kind of zipping around right now, and I'm like, she always has something like that. Foxy was fine.
Yeah,
totally fine. Had it been anyone else or the same scenario like 3 or 4 years ago, I would have been freaking out too.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me at all this 2 weekends ago. It was fine because I know this pet sitter. She loves my dog. She wants the best for them. She's just like, she has a very unusual way about her, let's say.
Okay.
And I know that enough. So anyway, thank you for the redeeming thing. I had a great experience in that sense, learning that 2 years ago.
Okay.
And this year I learned a whole bunch of other stuff.
So tell me about it. What did you learn this time around? Because I know that, and I think that's the best way to look at it, man. Like you've taught me in a way how to look at how to look at bodybuilding in general. That, you know, like you said, all those things were learning experiences. But this time, I feel like the end result was pretty awesome. So that's why I'm especially excited about this year. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know that someone said, "Oh, you looked your best." I'm like, I don't think I look my best. I mean, I've looked better, and I can look better. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, first of all, the diet didn't start as a contest diet. It was like the first. I was going to go on a vacation.
I remember this.
To
Cancun,
and that didn't happen. I just started dieting. I was basically kind of off season. I wasn't having. I'm just going to diet down. So I got in pretty good shape. Then the vacation fell through.
Okay.
So that was interesting to see how I could diet down, just almost kind of nonchalantly applying the same things.
Right.
And not having. I wasn't trying to diet all. So I was a little bit smaller than I would have been otherwise. I just sort of just tried to get lean. I just wanted to be able to go to Cancun where it's all you can eat.
Yeah.
And it was going to be a situation where the person I was going to be with was going to want to eat a lot too. So we're just going to eat.
Yeah, just relax, eat.
Yeah.
Eat a bunch of food, hang out on the beach, get all full.
It's nice, exactly, when you're like you have your huge belly and your back.
Right.
And you're like, I need to get out of the heat because now I've got like the Thanksgiving thermic effect thing going on. So that fell through, and then I was like, okay, so now my glutes are, pretty close to being striated. Like my glutes are basically, I've got striations in the morning, my glutes. So what am I going to do with this? I don't know what to do. And I'm talking to my friends, they may watch this, Rosetta and Alessandro, Rosetta Mortati and Alessandro Savi. They're from Italy. They live in New York.
Wait a second. Okay. Rosetta. Rosetta. What's his name again?
Alessandro Savi.
Is he a short dude?
He's yeah.
But about as wide as he is tall.
He's like, I don't want to. He's like, I think he's like 5'2", and he barely makes the light heavy.
Okay, yeah, he's a big dude. You know, he was friends with. I don't know them personally. First of all, shout out to them. But I know their names. Actually, she has commented on some of our live shows. Oh, yeah. So shout out to Rosetta too. But they were friends with Derek Anthony. I remember Derek Anthony used to talk about them. Yeah.
Yep. They're just really, really good people.
Yeah.
Gabriele Trapani is an Italian coach. I'll tell the whole story. I don't think we ever told this on the podcast. So he's an Italian coach. I think he first read my article on John Meadows. This is just gonna be like, shout out galore here, connecting all the people.
Okay.
Name dropping time. So John Meadows, MountainDogDiet.com. I wrote an article that's now in the Be Your Own Bodybuilding Coach book. I've expanded upon it some, added some things to it about doing peak week with no diuretics. And Gabriella, he's a pretty well-known coach. He read that and he sent me a message. And people who've pretty much anyone.
Is that the hottest kid in bodybuilder? Article?
Yeah,
okay.
I think it is. Yes. I heard something else. I was the hottest kid who's a bodybuilder. I'm like
the hottest kid that's a bodybuilder. No.
Yeah, no, that's not. He doesn't go by that. No, that's not his. That is not his screening.
Yeah.
So he sent me a message, asked me some questions, and I just helped him.
Okay.
And then he's worked with some other clients. So I just sort of helped him along the way, and he's pays attention to the things that I do. And he was coaching Alessandro actually 2 years ago at the Universe.
Okay.
Athletes meeting, Alessandro comes up to me and says hello. We'll make the connection. Then since then, Rosetta and Alessandro and I have been friends. She's done flyers for events. She's set up. They run Bolero, which actually I've used to flavor this drink. It's
great product.
It's called a hydration. Yeah. Oh my. Well, I've got the grape. I think I've got that in there. I use a SodaStream carbonate stuff.
Oh, that stuff is so cool.
Yeah. It's a wee bit more expensive than buying seltzer.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's convenient. And you can make like 1 liter bottles and then just flavor that. And they have so many. They have flavors like you every flavor you can imagine, basically.
So would he have been at like the Arnold then? Because thinking back,
they go to Arnold every year.
I bought a bunch of Bolero packs last year, and
that was from them.
It was like, a super jacked dude that was selling them to me. So I
like a football jersey.
I can't remember that many details, but I'm just wondering, it's a small world, bodybuilding, right?
I can send you a picture and we can throw it up. I have some even on the desktop that we've used because he was a guest poser, I think, at the show that I used to co-promote with Tony Torres, Iron Temple Gym, Miami.
Yeah.
Name drop again. Anyway, so there, I'm talking to Rosetta, and she said to give her a quick call, and she's like, well, why don't you do the Universe? And I'm like, it's just because it should cost so much, and I wasn't dieting to try to do a show. It's like, well, you can stay with us. We're going to be there because we have a booth. I'm like, oh, because they know Steve Weinberger. That's the show, Bev. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, why not? I thought about it for a few days. So, like, it was on a Tuesday, like 2.5 weeks beforehand. And I'm like, okay, fuck it, I'm going to do it. Just decided I'm going to do it. I got a flight, got my pet sitter set up, get everything arranged, and I was going to put in my application. Then it's like, and then I read, so what's your qualifying show? It's like the next step, and I'm like, they changed that. It used to be you had to have done the Universe once, and then you were qualified forever. So I had done the Universe in 2016, 2017. You qualified for life. Kind of like the Masters Nationals used to be, you just had to have done an NPC show at any time in your life. It could have been 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And then you're qualified to do Masters Nationals. Well, now they do it a little differently. They want to have you done an NPC show. So I had to go to an NPC show. So that was on a Tuesday, and I went and did what the hell was it? I don't even know what it's called. Some show in Fort Lauderdale. It was a Tim Gardner show, Atlantic Coastal maybe.
Okay.
And there were like 6 bodybuilders. I got dead last in the open heavies. I got 3rd out of 3.
Did you really?
Yeah, I got my butt whooped. Well, look for a guy. Oh, what's his name? I want to say Ken Harris. There was a dude there who's like 52, 54.
Okay.
Older black dude. I didn't know how old he was at the time. And he did the novice, and he did the open, he did the heavies, or did the masters. And of course, he beat me in the masters. I think they had a masters overall, but I saw him and I'm like, he peeled down like, oh, he's just doing this because he has to qualify so he can go get his card at the Universe.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, so he can just go get his card. Like, he just has to step on stage and he's going to collect it.
Yeah.
And so did the show. He actually did not win the open heavies, interestingly enough. And I haven't even looked at the pictures to know. Like, I was very surprised just backstage, but I can't tell shit backstage, so I'm not going to say anything. So he did not win. I went up to him afterwards, and I started talking to him. Super nice guy. And I'm like, so you going to the Universe in 2 weeks? And he's like, do what? I said, what's your next show? He's like, I'm going to do the Masters Nationals. I'm like, okay. You're not going to do the Team Universe in New Jersey? He's like, no, what's that? And I'm like, well, it's another pro qualifier. It's kind of like the Masters Nationals. It'd be a good chance to get your card. He's like, oh, really? And I'm like, you did the novice, didn't you? Because it's hard to tell. Like, there's only 5 or 6 bodybuilders in the whole show.
Yeah.
That just, like, flew through. It was his first show.
Ever, huh?
He never competed before.
Wow.
And I don't know, he may have been a powerlifter or something like that, but
yeah,
the dude was just ridiculous.
He had a lot of muscle in him.
Like, pro quality muscle.
Wow, yes. I'll be damned.
Beautiful lines, big round muscle bellies.
Yeah.
He wasn't quite in the kind of shape he needed to be, but that's probably because he just didn't like, who knows what he was dieting down on. I mean,
right.
I have no idea how knowledgeable he was or wasn't, but just given that he didn't even know that the Universe was a show that existed.
Right. That says a lot right there.
But I'm imagining, and this may not be the case, but I'm imagining the scenario where like some guys from the gym, like he's like, I think his name was Ken. Like, Ken, you ought to do the Masters Nationals. Like, and he'd been hearing that for like a decade.
Right.
So it's like he just said so he found that and he signed up for it. He didn't even bother to look at what the other opportunities were. Like, it wasn't like he went through and like handpicked the NPC shows to try to create a competitive strategy to get his pro card. He's just doing it because it's finally like, people have been telling me for like the last 40 years of my life I should compete.
Right.
So finally he's in I think he was 54 maybe. Anyway, I want to look for him because that's going to be, I think, next weekend. So hopefully we'll see. Hopefully if he got in shape, if he's absolutely peeled, then he's going to be in the running. He's really, really good. So
that good, huh?
Yeah, but that was like totally wing it. So I had to like just do that show out of nowhere. I stayed at an Airbnb that had a quote unquote kitchen, with no sink. It was a mini fridge, and they had a hot plate but no pan.
Huh. Okay. Interesting.
And they had no cups.
Yeah.
And no plates. I had to buy, and like one set of plastic silver or like one set. It was very odd. BYOP.
Being your own pan.
Pretty much, yeah. I just had to buy one, So now I have an extra pan. But so did that, and then I just went to the Team Universe, and I got to stay with Alessandro's. They didn't even see me compete. They were just doing their thing, and I just did my thing, and it was cool.
That's badass, man.
Yeah,
that's badass.
Fun.
So tell me about what you did this time around. I know that last time you competed, one of the things that you really focused on was you used a very, very high protein strategy. What did you do with your protein this time around?
I mean, most of my diet was just like nonchalant. I just started cutting out. First, I started cutting out. I've told Paul Carter this. Like yum sauce is it's stuff you use at hibachi. It's just delicious, and I just started taking that out.
Yeah.
Started just getting rid of some of the excess. Started moving some fat on my non-training days and made those harder. Okay. And then I stopped making my post-workout meals. I still use the nutrient timing approach.
Yeah.
Stopped making those post-workout meals like all you can like stuff down.
Okay.
And I mean, it wasn't like there was no special strategy. That was the thing. It was a very nonchalant diet.
Yeah.
What happened? But the main thing that I kind of learned, like the big lesson, and this is kind of a good topic. I thought it was, I think it was another sort of scenario where it was sort of the perfect storm of things that would have brought this on. So I did that show, the Atlantic Coastal, and I was really tired. What I was going to do at that show, I have an advanced loading strategy that I have in my Be Your Own Bodybuilding Coach book that I had worked out actually in 2017. And a little bit in 2016, John Meadows and I were doing some of these things together.
Okay.
And basically, it's set up, and a lot of people have used it now. I've had clients use it too. So for someone who needs to make weight, who could barely make a weight class. So this obviously fits for like classic guys and a lot of the bodybuilders too, and then they want to fill up afterwards. So you diet. It's basically dieting down. Drop your water. Do everything I've got in my sort of my generic protocol. Make weight, and then thereafter, literally, like let's say you weigh in on a Friday, and then you go to the gym and do a pump workout and add in carbs and water. So basically, fill up thereafter.
And I'm sorry, how far out is this?
The day before the show.
Okay, so you're doing a pump workout the day before, and you're increasing your water, and you're adding carbs. So
slowly titrating it, yeah.
Okay, so the added water is to help deliver the carbs to the muscle?
Well, yeah. I mean, deliver is part of it. The main thing is storing the carbs. So water, carbohydrate gets stored as the glycogen carbohydrate protein complex.
Okay.
And with that, the values are all over the place. It's an interesting phenomenon. Probably has to do with a lot of things. But the amount of water that gets pulled in osmotically is somewhat variable. Some people you see when they carb up, they blow right up, and others don't. So it's hard to know exactly. The value of like 2.7 grams of water per gram of glycogen actually comes from a study in rats in the liver, not in human skeletal muscle. There's a Bill Sherman, William Sherman. He's the first author on a paper. They examined this idea in humans and sounded pretty variable. But basically, you need to have somewhere around, you can kind of guesstimate 3 grams of water per gram of glycogen, and when you're storing glycogen. So if you load, let's say you're really depleted, and you've loaded, and you can load 1,000 grams over the course of carbs as glycogen to the muscle. You could hypothetically also load in 3,000 grams of water. Now that might be risking it, in just 12 hours to try to do that. But if you take in 1,000 grams of carbohydrate, you're going to have some water pulled in intracellularly with that. And if you've already dried out the night before the show to make weight, so you're literally depleted, you've done some depletion workouts. Like a lot of these classic guys have to just, it's kind of ridiculous, to be honest, what they have to do in order to make weight. They're doing everything and anything you can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
So they're really depleted, they're dehydrated, etc., and they're just flat as shit. Absolutely. That's the only way they can make weight. So the idea is to use, and this is, the pump workout is not to like drive muscle growth or anything of that nature. It's to increase sensitivity to the incoming carbohydrates because contractions have an insulin-like effect. And it's also to help you gauge whether you're getting a pump or not. So you basically are going into the gym, and I've kind of got this outlined in the book, and you're feeding in carbs, something like a highly branched cyclic dextrin, the carbohydrates that work best for you intra-workout, and you're putting those in and doing a set, not leaving lots of reps in the tank, and basically just kind of trying to get a good pump going.
Yeah.
You just work your way through the whole body, taking in water and carbohydrate, and hoping that you gain at least 4 or 5 pounds by the next morning.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is an artwork. It's an art form, so to speak. You literally have to kind of pay attention to how pumped up you are during that workout. Whether you do want to get a pump.
Yeah, of course. I can imagine.
Adding some sodium. The nice thing about it is that, I've got people using vitamin C and B vitamins and uva ursi and dandelion and then some caffeine in the morning, those sorts of things. So you're still driving diuresis. So you still got some control on diuresis. It's not like you weigh in and then you just let off on all the things that are keeping you dry and then add in water and sodium and carbs and then have like this avalanche of water and carbs, sodium coming in that can make you spill. You've still got some adjustment points there.
Yeah.
So you're still putting those things in, and it's an art form. So that's why I wanted to practice that. So I went to practice that the night before at the Atlantic Coastal, and God, I was really sore. I was like, I had adjusted my training a little bit, not a ton. We could talk about what I did. Well, I'm going to get to it anyway. But what I did on the Wednesday before that show. No, sorry, that was 2 weeks later. Never mind.
Okay.
But I had adjusted my training, knowing that I was going to be doing that, but not a bunch. And I went in and I started stretching. I'm like, oh my quads are really sore.
After this pump workout?
No, before.
Before it, okay.
At the start of it, yeah. And I just wasn't very recovered, so I was a little tired. But that was kind of the start of what I'm leading to. So I did that. It didn't work all that well. It's always tough. I mean, you've probably done this to a certain degree. I've got my dogs with me. It was very last minute. I had to pack all my shit up. I had to go find all the ingredients that I had, like they were packed in storage. So it was a pretty busy 3 or 4 days. So I expected to be tired. No big deal. So anyway, went and did that show. I didn't even nationally qualify. I'm not even nationally qualified now, to be honest. I don't know that my Universe placing nationally qualifies me. Maybe it does. I'd have to look, but so they didn't even place top 2 in the Open.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I'm tired. I'm like, okay, I need to just get back and relax.
Yeah.
And so I literally just ate up for 2 or 3 days. And I'm like, okay, now I'm going to push the conditioning because I wasn't as lean as they needed me. I pushed really hard. Really, really tired. And I'm leading to something. I'm not complaining about the tired thing, but I'm leading into what we talked about at the end of our conversation last night.
Yeah.
So the Wednesday before the Universe, so this is literally like 10 days ago now, I'm like, okay, just out of curiosity, learning here, to get some blood work done, see if something's out of whack. I actually went and had a DEXA done down at University of Tampa. A shout out to Chris Bearcat, who was in there and met me in the lab. Totally, just like whatever,
Chris did it with you. Stuff. That's cool. Yeah.
Well, he runs the lab.
Okay. Yeah.
So he actually ran the DEXA for me. He just turned on. We just chatted for a while. It's 4th of July weekend. I think it was maybe the 3rd of July, the 2nd of July, something like that. On a Wednesday.
Yeah, it was right before it.
Yeah, so that was cool. And literally, I went in. I made like a 9:30 appointment to get the blood work done, and the address sent me to the corporate office because for some reason instead of going to LabCorp like I had been before, they switched to Quest. So I ended up being late to that, which meant they put me on the walk-in list, and then it was taking forever. And I went and did some stuff and came back, and then I got bumped, and I was off the list, and they wouldn't put me back on. So finally, I just said, "Screw it," and I ate. I had to eat.
Okay.
It was like 12, and I'm like, this isn't worth it. So my lipids were a little bit high, but that's okay. It was a big deal. And that was the day I was carbing up too. But so I know some things were thrown off, but everything was great on the blood work. Everything was fine. But I didn't find that out until Friday.
Okay.
So fast forward, travel to New Jersey. We do the actually that was Friday was when we did the podcast, the Swoley Trinity podcast.
Yes, which is coming out. If you're watching this live, you guys can watch it tomorrow on rebroadcast. That'll be on YouTube as well as advicesradio.com, iTunes, and all of that. But cool. Yes, so you were in your hotel room. You didn't tell the listeners that you were in the hotel room at Universe. While we did that show, right? Yeah. And I was pretty tired, Yeah.
I had to kind of get up a little early to get some of the things done I was doing and blah, 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 so that I could have a 2-hour block. And literally right after that, I had to scoot over to get color, that kind of thing. And this was really interesting. Liquid Sunrays did I used the same tanning company for both shows. And Liquid Sunrays did my color. And I've always been pretty good with this. I took the color like a champ. It just came, it's still on me. It literally, I can see it. You can see how dark I was. I literally, it stayed. This happened 4 or 5 years ago once, where my color just stayed for 2 weeks. It's it just didn't go away, and I scrubbed and everything.
Yeah,
it just looked great. It's like photo shoot quality for a couple weeks.
Yeah,
and that happened again this time. So, and when I went in and got the color done at the Universe, I forget her name, but the woman who was putting it on, she's like, "You're like a poster child. This is color doesn't go on any better than this."
That's cool. Yeah, your color did look really good.
It just came. It was perfect. I didn't go in for a touch up or anything.
Wow, no kidding.
I didn't need one. I didn't need one at all. Even nothing. So even with my face, and I wear a CPAP at night. Usually I don't even have them do my face. I'm like, just do it, and like, whatever.
Right.
It went in great,
Huh.
So here's the thing. So we do the podcast. I'm tired, but, dieting makes you tired. Didn't think too much about it, but I was just curious. So I looked through my blood work. Everything's basically as I would have expected. In fact, I'm thinking like, do I have some organ stress? My liver values, I trained the day before.
Yeah.
So my liver values, as they always have been, anytime I've done this, it's very normal. They were elevated. ALT and AST was what I'm referring to. They were elevated about, I have to go and look, but about somewhere around 1.5 to 2 times the upper limit, which is normal for having trained. It's been like that for 20 years.
Yeah.
Always the same. Actually, my creatinine was in range,
interesting.
which I was surprised by because that's normally high.
Yeah.
Creatinine is an indirect measure of muscle mass because most creatine is stored in skeletal muscle. The more skeletal muscle you have, the more creatine you have, and that means more creatine for the formation of creatinine, and that's just a spontaneous degradation. It's not dependent on exercise or what have you. So you just have more creatinine in your blood, the more creatine you have in your body, which is a measure of muscle mass.
Right.
It's actually low, so I'm like, okay, that was interesting. But I hadn't lost about a bunch of muscle mass, and I'll tell you more about the DEXA in a bit too. So anyway, this is like, it's funny because I'm sitting here talking about me, but this is all scientific stuff that's interesting because I'm talking about me as a subject. You know?
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm like looking at, and I get to evaluate, and I had measured this before, but I had no reason to expect it to be out of range. But I threw it in there. I checked my PSA. That was good. My dad had prostate cancer for years, so I try to keep track of my PSA. So that's always, a nice one to pay attention to. And my vitamin D was low, clinically low.
Okay.
The range is, I think the units are maybe nanograms per milliliter. For 3-hydroxy, let me look it up here. And 20 to 30 is getting in trouble.
Okay.
And insufficient. And I was 17. 17's pretty friggin' low.
Yeah.
And actually, I looked into the research literature, and there was a case study of a guy who was 17.
Okay.
So 30 to 100 nanograms per milliliter is normal for 25-hydroxy vitamin D. Mine was 17.
Okay.
So one of the typical symptoms of that is fatigue.
Yeah.
And muscle pain sometimes. The DEXA showed that my bones are great. My bone mineral density is fine. It actually hasn't changed because I had a DEXA done there a couple of years ago.
Okay.
So that I'm good to go there. So I didn't check PTH, but all the training I do, I'm good to go. So this seems like it's probably an acute thing.
Yeah.
It came down because my bone mineral density was fine. It's high, as you might expect. So, like, what in the heck happened? Vitamin D is a function of UV radiation converting vitamin D precursors in the skin. I'm in Florida. I'm outside all the time.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I do to kind of diet that I started doing way back when. It's just I started going outside, working on my Jeep. I've got my driveway's like embarrassingly. It's like just full of shit. I've got like sawhorses out there, and I'm starting to put together like a garage sale. I've been outside a lot.
Okay.
But actually, in those last couple weeks before the universe, maybe the last 3 weeks, it had been raining a good bit. So that kept me inside. I had plenty of things to do inside. I'm still cleaning up the house after this remodeling, getting ready for some things. So trying to figure this out, and here's what I kind of came up with. Let's see, I wrote all this down. So some things that can impact your vitamin D. Mine was low. I've been taking 1,000 IUs of vitamin D in my multi every day.
Okay.
That's 250% of the US RDI, 1,000. 5,000 is like a lot of bodies will take 5,000. You get to above 5,000 and you do that repeatedly on a daily basis, chronically, you're looking towards having some toxicity issues.
Okay.
On average, some people maybe they would be too high if they did that. Depends on the size of the person, etc. But I was at 1,000. It's in my daily. But what I would typically do, just kind of throw it in there. I wake up in the morning and I take all my goodies in the morning, and that would be one of them. But on an empty stomach.
Right.
Vitamin D is better absorbed with a fatty meal. It's taking on an empty stomach.
Okay.
So there's that. It's interesting. I also, because I was going to Cancun, and you can get fried down there.
Yeah.
Probably like 2 weeks before that was happening, I was getting a lot of warnings about this. I started using some Melanotan.
Okay.
That makes your skin darker.
Right.
So I looked into this a little bit. And my mom is very fair skinned. My dad's not so much, but I'm darker now. I've got color on, but and I'm darker with Melanotan. I can get really dark with Melanotan.
Oh,
I can
bet.
get super duper dark. But
not skip dark. I'm just throwing it out there.
I don't know. I probably could get as dark as him. That's the thing. I don't know. It's an interesting thing.
I don't know. That's saying a lot right there.
Dude, I have some pictures. I could prove it to you, actually.
I sense a contest coming on between you and Skip.
I don't even want to do that. No, I don't want to do that. So, but the interesting thing is that I don't know, because if you look sort of generally, and I haven't done this literature to really have a whole lot of expertise on it, but there's some evidence suggesting that the reasons for migratory patterns, or there is at least an association between migratory patterns of people who went north and those who stayed closer to the equator, those going north having lighter skin, those staying more southern or closer to the equator, is because darker skin, because literally the fact that it's dark because it is not reflecting light. The pigments are absorbing the UV radiation that would otherwise go to converting vitamin D.
No kidding. So the tanner you are, the less of a vitamin D level you may have.
No, not exactly. The more likely you are to have the genetics for better conversion of vitamin D. So if you were someone who had poor genetics for vitamin D conversion and you went north where there's less sunlight, you'd run into trouble. There would be a survival stress there unless you had lighter skin. So being more of a northerner favored lighter skinned people because more of the UV radiation would go to converting vitamin D. Going south, or those who stayed, whose ancestors lived closer to the equator, favored darker skin, because those with darker skin also tend to have, or those people who are doing that, tended to have the genetics that allowed them to more efficiently use the UV radiation to convert vitamin D precursors into the active forms.
Okay.
So I have genetics of a light-skinned person. I also have genetics that seem to respond well to Melanotan, which may be part of this issue. This is where I'm going with this. My mom is very light-skinned.
Okay.
So it's very possible that I've got, and I don't know, I'd have to look this up. I've got DNA data, but I don't know if I have it for the genes involved here. It's very possible that I have poor genetics for vitamin D conversion, and I exacerbated that issue using Melanotan because I made my skin darker, which would have robbed my skin of the UV radiation's effects on converting vitamin D. You following me?
I am. Yeah.
Okay, good.
But you're not able to. You're not like a normal person that had dark skin where you were able to convert it at a high rate. You're still an average white guy.
I'm a white guy with poor vitamin D conversion abilities. I need to have light skin in order to do that.
Yes, yeah, right.
And now I've disadvantaged myself using Melanotan.
Interesting.
And it's been dark. I haven't been outside as much as I had been before.
Okay.
And I got painted at that show in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, yeah.
And I was really dark. I mean, there was a substantial, and I have no idea what those dyes do to, but obviously it makes you darker. Whether that is absorbing the UV at the wavelength that interacts with the conversion, or not. But I don't think it helped.
Interesting.
So there's that. Dark days. I'm not outside as much. Melanotan exacerbating things. I'm not taking in vitamin D with food or with fats.
Yeah.
So that reduces absorption. And I'm dieting, and a high fiber diet will tend to impact. There's some enterohepatic. Basically, there's some circulation of vitamin D between the intestinal tissue and the liver tissue.
Okay.
And high fiber diets tend to speed the elimination of vitamin D. And I was eating lots of fiber. I was eating lots of veggies in the morning to fill me up.
Yeah.
And I was actually removing some of the fats from my diet too, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
So I'm adding something that basically increases vitamin D elimination, and I'm removing something that helps with absorption.
Yeah.
Okay. And the half-life of vitamin D on the body is roughly around 15 days, something like that. It depends on the metabolite, but that's what I've been able to uncover on the order of a couple weeks. So I've got this scenario where I've got less exposure to sunlight.
Right.
I'm taking in the vitamin D on an empty stomach with no fat, with a high fiber diet, all of which are going to tend to reduce the absorption and increase the elimination. I've limited the UV conversion with the melanotan and the tan that I've used. And my liver, I was concerned mainly about my liver at first. My liver's okay. There's actually some suggestion that people with cirrhosis can have impaired vitamin D metabolism, but my liver was good. So my liver seemed to be fine. GGT, everything was good as far as the blood work told me. But anyway, I ended up vitamin D deficient, and literally we got done with the podcast, and I'm like, okay, I got to check my email here, do some more work, and then I got to run off to tan.
Yeah.
I get my blood work. I read vitamin D deficient. I'm like, shit. I don't want to go back to that Walmart because that's the first place to get the vitamin D. I'm like, I think I have some vitamin D in my vitamin box. I don't even know what it is, if it's 5,000 IU or 2,000. I just knew I had a little segment where I had some vitamin D.
Yeah.
So I used to, at one point, years ago, I was taking vitamin D. I don't even know. I have no idea. Actually, I had two forms in there. I just knew I threw them together. Okay. And I would have remembered 2 years ago what the dose was, but they're old.
It's been a while.
So I took two of the pills that I'm guessing they may have been 5,000. It could have been 2,000. Within about 45 minutes, the fog clears.
You're kidding me.
I felt great.
Huh.
It was kind of like if you're maybe hungover. I'm trying to give example of people, because I felt this way before. It's like maybe you're hungover and you're like, and you have a good cup of coffee and it's like, now I'm good.
Yeah.
And it's like all of a sudden, a whole aspect of my personality was revived.
No kidding. You felt it quick.
It was in 45 minutes, a massive shift.
So do you think that this deficiency was a short-term thing?
I think so. It didn't seem to impact my. I think I had a measure of PTH. There was nothing in my blood work that suggested any sort of chronic stuff going on, and my bone mineral density is good.
Okay.
So if I had been vitamin D deficient for a long time, it would have shown up. And I actually, literally, I have the BMD values from the DEXA, which is kind of the gold standard for that. That's why DEXA was basically created. Secondarily, it can do a good job with body composition, but the technology was developed for the measurement of bone mineral density. And I was dead on with what I was 2 years ago.
I found out mine's a little bit low recently.
How low was it?
I've got it up right now. So it is it's nanograms per milliliter, and it looks like the range is at least on my test. The range is 30 to 100. Mine wasn't terribly low. It's right just below the bottom end at 29.76. So 29, 30 being the low end.
Oh, the resolution. Yeah. Okay.
But I'll tell you what, though, I started supplementing with it, and I think that it is helping my energy levels, because I have noticed definitely for the last couple of years, I think it's probably, I'm going to suspect, to the way I've felt, it's probably been low for a little while, because I could definitely tell I'm just a little bit sharper and a little bit more alert on a regular basis. I've had just issues of just like fatigue and feeling tired and feeling like I'm going to fall asleep all the time. That I think that it's helping. So and this is just something I found out. When was this? I had this done a month ago, and I started the supplementation up within the last couple of weeks. So
how much are you using?
Right now, 7,000, along with vitamin K. So
yes, K2.
Yep, I'm taking the two of them together, and I'll probably back it down a little bit from there. But I'm going to get retested again probably in another month or so, see where I'm at there.
Yeah, I'm still digging into this. There's some interaction with sleep and sleep quality.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and there's a great. I actually posted this to my Instagram story, but this is one of those things that like literally everyone. I feel so strongly about the quality information that was put forth in this podcast, which is so solid. So Peter Attia, he's a physician. He's been on the Joe Rogan show. Attilia, Egyptian last name. His podcast is called The Drive, and he had a researcher by the name of Matthew Walker on there. It's been maybe a couple months ago now, and Matthew Walker is basically at the forefront of sleep research. And they do a 3-part, it's probably 5 or 6 hours of interaction. Tia is a brilliant guy.
Okay.
And Matthew Walker is he's a Brit, and he's just got a wonderful demeanor, and he's sharp as shit. And I tell you what, like the insights about the importance and the unfortunate fact that we know so little about sleep and it's so understudied is just, I was like, my house. It's just really mind-boggling when you listen to the whole thing. There's like, for instance, they've done some like just the impact of Ambien on reconciliation of memories and what it does to the brain. Basically, it's basically antithetical to the processes that are going on in your brain.
What does that mean, antithetical?
Opposing.
Really?
It's like anti-sleep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's I'll just leave the podcast to people, but definitely listen to that. So what I've started doing, one of the things that actually I think it's working out pretty well, and I've known this for the longest time, but there's so much. We've got all this blue light. This is all in my Be Your Own Bodybuilding Coach book. Sleep is so important. We've got all this blue light. We're basically completely shifting ourselves away from the normal circadian rhythm, what Mother Nature has set us up from an evolutionary perspective, what we've adapted to. You wake up when it starts to get light.
Right.
When it gets dark, it's dark. You want to go to sleep. There's reasons for that. The podcast is phenomenal. It's very engaging. So I've actually started... I've got an Aurora ring coming. I know they're not great. There's only one study looking at those. They're sort of touted as supposed to be one of the best sleep trackers. I've tried tracking sleep with both my Apple Watch, and I've got a new app to try that. I just loaded it up, so I'll see how that goes when we get back to that. And my Fitbit.
We had talked about that extensively. Remember, some time ago on Muscle Minds. I'm sure a lot of listeners didn't hear that stuff. You know, if they haven't tuned in long term.
My sleep is terrible. Like I mean, there's a huge. Oh my god! Like I've got like less than 50% sleep efficiency. I'm not even sure what that means. Like terrible. It's like I'm getting like just horrible sleep.
That doesn't sound good.
No, but you know what I've done though? I forced myself to go. Literally, I woke up early. This happened just a few days ago. Today I got up at like 6 o'clock, just when the sun was coming up here, in Florida, and I'm shutting it down at 7.
Really?
People send me messages. Like I'm putting my phone on airplane mode.
Yeah.
And I'm in bed by 8:30 at the latest, if at all possible. Been doing that for like 3 or 4 nights now.
Good.
Well, actually, longer than that. And it's. Although my sleep still sucks according to the sleep watch, I'm waiting. The Aura takes a while to get there. I'm not sure how long it'll take. A couple of weeks for some reason, but I still feel better.
Okay.
I still feel more rested. Some of that's probably the vitamin D, but So I'm going to dig into that. Hopefully I'll have some more information or at least resources to pass along to people so they can learn more about it. But it's kind of amazing. Like, I guess, we set ourselves up, and it's interesting when Peter Attia is a physician, and my dad was a physician. And they've actually instituted some things for doctors going through residency now, to sort of mandate their workload to keep it below what it once was. But it was a badge of honor to basically live without sleep.
Right.
Oh, yeah. And it sort of was, when I was doing my PhD, like literally I worked every day for like 2 years straight. They were like all day, like 18-hour days.
So are they discouraging that now?
They're disallowing it for physicians, apparently. I don't know the details. Maybe someone who's in med school out there, but like literally they've it's kind of like what they've done with truckers.
Yeah, I just was thinking that.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing, I guess. I don't know how well they can really obviously with truckers you can look at the logs. I think they've got some electronic devices that are installed on the vehicles to make sure that they're not driving, outside of what the regulations allow, but that's what they're doing. I mean, they've limited it to like an 80-hour work week.
Yeah.
Which is like a substantial reduction. And I mean, Attia talked about some of like the things he did on the podcast. And it's like once he like had to pull over, like you'll get these like mini sleeps or micro sleeps where people are literally falling asleep like in the middle of the day, like when they're driving.
Oh yeah.
Got sleep apnea.
Oh yeah.
And I've got apnea. I treat that. But still, even then, it's not perfect. So anyway, so I'm putting those things together.
I've been trying to be more aware of setting myself up for better quality sleep. And Victoria's been the one who's helped me to implement that. So, in the past, I would literally work all day, all night until it was time to go to bed. And I would just be like typing and falling asleep, end of the night. And then finally I'd just be like, okay, I guess that means it's time for bed because I'm sleeping here. All the lights are on in the house. Everything I'm listening to or doing is at full volume. Difference now is that we turn the lights down low. We have like maybe one light on that's very dim. We have a red light in the bedroom that's on when we go into the bedroom, so we could just go in. We don't have to flip the switch to turn the bright lights on. That's already there, and then we can turn that off. When we get into bed. TV is very low, so the volume isn't very stimulating. She's very sensitive too, so we watch. End of the night, it's like very slow documentary type television if we're going to watch TV. So it's those things that I haven't paid attention to before, because I would literally go just 100 miles an hour until I was done, and then just shut it off. Just pull the switch and just, that's it. Then now I'm asleep. So, and I think it's helped my quality, that in itself for sure. But that's the kind of thing that we have to be aware of. I remember there's a podcast. It's called Mind Pump. You might have heard of it. They were talking about how we spend it like in people that are into fitness, that we spend so much time focusing on the nutrition, focusing on the training, but we don't look at sleep as something that we can actually work on. And sleep is something that you do need to put work into it in order to get good at it.
I mean, that's exactly what I'm saying. And I'm looking, because this has happened. It happened a few times when I was using the Fitbit, and there were like one or two nights where just, the stars and the moon and the sun aligned, and I ended up getting like what was kind of an average night's sleep.
Yeah.
For what, you would expect. And I felt ridiculous. I felt like fucking Thor. Like, holy shit, I'm unstoppable.
Yeah.
This is crazy. And I mean, literally, like, I have to look the numbers up. I still haven't even had a chance to pay attention to it, but they're like I've got like, I think I got this app told me I've got a 49% sleep debt just from last night. And I had the same thing the day before. Like literally I got half the sleep that I should be getting given my statistics.
Let me ask you this. Do you think now, looking back at your bodybuilding, do you feel like this is something that you wished you had looked at sooner, maybe 15 years ago when you were, when you were really trying to push to be, your ultimate best bodybuilder?
Yeah, it's something I've kind of known about, and literally I probably I mean, I just wouldn't, given the other things I was doing in my life, our lifestyles, the things we set up, our ambitions, disallow us.
Yeah.
From like, I mean, I'm thinking like, I went and I did my PhD, and then I went, to grads. I was doing my postdoc, and I was in grad school at the same time, and then I was doing my, and blah blah blah. And I can like think through it, like when I was in acupuncture school. Gosh, like I was trying to gain weight when I was in acupuncture school, and I was still competing at one point in time. And I remember like in the mid afternoons, I was having like 6,000 calories a day, and I'd get up and I'd have make these 2,000 calorie shakes that I would slam.
Yeah.
And there were some days I was in clinic and I have a 1 o'clock and a 2 o'clock client, and then I'd have at 3 o'clock it'd be time to drink my shake, and I would literally just pull it out of the cooler and take a few deep breaths and get pumped up and slam the whole friggin' thing and put it down.
Yeah.
Like that, and that was the mindset. And I would just go, and then I'd go home and work. I mean, I get it from my dad probably. I've got a good tolerance for workload, but that doesn't mean like whenever there have been a couple times. This happened. It's happened to me at least twice. The first time I really learned about this, it's happened 3 times. I'm adding them up now. Like I've been given the lesson. When I was in high school playing football, I was the guy who did everything that they told us to. I think I told you about, maybe it wasn't on this podcast, but I've talked about, it was an asinine weight training program they had us doing. So
I don't remember if it was on this show or not, but I do remember hearing.
It was 4 hours of weight training, full body, 3 times a week. And I was also on the swim team, and I was doing all the extra cardio and the drills. It was like 7 hours of exercise a day or some stupid shit like that.
Yeah.
And I went right into 2-a-days. And then I got hit with a helmet in my thigh. I was running back, and I got a thigh bruise, which ended up being a myositis ossificans. So literally the bruising, and I probably brought this on by trying to push too hard in the rehab. The bruise and the hematoma there can actually become ossified. So like a couple months later, when I didn't get better, we actually took an X-ray of my leg, and you could see my femur bone, and then there was a disc in my quad. I think it was my left leg, a bone.
No kidding.
Ossified tissue, yeah. Myositis, muscle inflammation, ossificans, ossification.
Huh. Okay.
So that hematoma, I got hit, got the bruise. Probably could have just let it be, done some massage and let it go. But I was tried to stretch and work through it, and I did quadruple whatever they suggested, and I lost range of motion. I just irritated the hell out of it. So what that meant is actually I got hurt and I got sick, and I had literally at the same time, and I stayed in bed for a week. Because I was really, really sick. I got a horrible fever. I missed school. It was the longest I've out of school. And we had an off-season weight training program where we were doing it was 2 sets of an incline press. I can remember it was just very basic, just total maintenance. Yeah. And we had he had it broken down you either use 135 or you use 175 or you use 215 or maybe 205, 225. 275, whatever, and you just pick that and you try to keep in the range and just try to keep your strength. I went in and I'd been whatever I was using, maybe 205, and I've been getting, I'm weighing 160 at the time, and maybe I was getting 8 reps or 10 reps and 12 reps. I went in after a week of just literally all bed rest, and I'm feeling like shit, but I just rested and rested and slept for a whole week, and I more than tripled my reps.
No kidding. Tripled your reps with just a little bit of extra sleep.
It was a lot of extra sleep. I just slept the whole time because I was really, really, I was sick, but I didn't eat anything either. Yeah. I just rested. Just slept. Yeah. And I went from 10 and 8 reps on those 2 sets, whatever they were, to 32 reps.
Wow.
It was I remember taking I think I even unracked the bar. And I'm fuck, I didn't put all the weight on there. I had, that would have been the 35s and 45s and 35s. Right. And I felt like it was 135. Yeah. Because it felt so light. And I'm and I double check. I'm okay, whatever. And I just destroyed it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was crazy. And so that's happened. I can go through the other times it's happened. Happened once when I was in grad school. I got done, I had a Christmas break. I came back home and I just rested and ate. And my mom gave me the light off food, and I just slept. I think it was after I defended my dissertation, maybe. And I was just like I just beaten myself to a pulp. And I just like every day I was just eating and sleeping, going to the gym, and like I was just I think I gained like 15 pounds.
No kidding.
It looked awesome. Felt great. So it's so absolutely undervalued. At least it has been and I've been shown this before.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely undervalued. And there's so many people. We have our 9 to 5. We have our work life. We have Western societal, just practical limitations on how much we can rest and recover. And that's why, I mean, people get shit for like pro bodybuilders because all you got to do is eat and train and sleep. Yeah. And there is an advantage there. I mean, those guys have great genetics. That they have to some degree, de facto, in order to get to that level.
Absolutely.
But some of them just get there, regardless. But when you can actually do that and do it right, I mean, just imagine. Like, I wonder about like Chris Cormier. I'm not picking on him, but he was just the person that people most know of having been like a crazy party animal. Right. Like. This is even a better example. This is why Ronnie was probably as good as he was. Now, obviously, he suffered the consequences for pushing it every way that he did. Right. But Ronnie wasn't a partier. No. I mean, he didn't like Chris Cormier was going out and hitting Vegas the night before the Olympia and still placing like 4th. Right. So the stories go. But Ronnie was just once he finally got with Chad and kind of figured out how to like dot all the I's and cross all the T's, and he was a relaxed guy. And, I imagine when Ronnie went to sleep, he just went to sleep. Yeah, he probably slept. Too. Yeah, and you've heard the stories about Kevin Levrone. Yeah, like he sleep like all the time, like 15 hours a day, contest prep, and that was probably one thing along with his genetics that allowed him to do those, those legendary recomps. Yeah. Where he'd go from like average guy at 210 to 245, 4% body fat. Right. He was just sleeping as much as he could and training and eating and able to do that. So yeah, absolutely. So that's my new thing. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. And I'm not sure why my sleep is so terrible. Some of it could be the vitamin D, but I'm making an effort to unravel the mystery. So,
well, while we've got you here, we had one more question, something that was from a listener that we were going to cover, and you reminded me of that because you had mentioned, our Western lifestyle. I can't remember the question offhand. I know that you've got it. It was somebody who had asked it to you. Now, having been on Mind Pump recently, which that episode finally came out, one of the questions that they asked you was about your interest in Eastern philosophies and how that tied into bodybuilding. Do you happen to have that question offhand, Scott, that somebody sent to you?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It was just literally, I just answered it on Sunday or yesterday. Okay. It's a really long question, so I'm not going to read it all, but so very well. He probably wouldn't mind if I mention his name. I'm not going to do that just because I don't know for sure. Sure. But basically, the question is really about how I justify, for lack of a better word, because you don't obviously have to justify shit to me, laugh out loud, your belief in the TCM, traditional Chinese medical explanations around acupuncture. So it's a fascinating thing. So first of all, he said, he used the word belief, and there really isn't any belief in why I stand by the effectiveness of acupuncture, because a belief, the way I interpret that, the way I think a lot of people do, is the belief is based to some degree upon simple faith, and that's belief. Yeah. That's knowing without evidence, so to speak. Or you can't really use the word belief when you're defining belief. But it's coming to an understanding of something and recognizing in doing so that you don't have evidence to support your case. And my evidence is not, and there's an important sort of distinction here between the words effective and efficacious, or the effectiveness or efficacy of something. You can look that up. Sometimes people talk about efficacy referring to a particular treatment having the desired effect on a very specific and controlled experimental or clinical conditions. Mm-hmm. The way I've come to understand it, and maybe I'm even just taking this. This is something that we talked about actually a good deal when I was working at the acupuncture school. Is that efficacy means, or the way I think of it, is that it means that the reason why, in this case, acupuncture or Chinese medicine works is based upon some specific mechanism of action. And some acupuncturists have an understanding, we can call it a belief, or their way of knowing that acupuncture or TCM works is because they believe, or they have the conviction that the principles of Chinese medicine, and we're talking about a whole slew of the medicine's been around for thousands of years. So the idea that qi is the central life-giving energy, and that qi is both yin and yang in energy. There's different vital substances like blood or shui, as you would say by bastardized American Chinese, and jingye and body fluids, and the idea of internal fire and blood stagnation, all the concepts in the paradigm of Chinese medicine, that those are actually the things that are at the deepest level the true explanation of how Chinese medicine works.
Okay.
That qi is real, that it's a real thing that you could measure. And I don't have an understanding, I don't have a belief in the efficacy of Chinese medicine being based upon the paradigm of Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
I view the paradigm of Chinese medicine as being something that's evolved over time as a tool, a conceptual model that can be used to apply the techniques or the modalities of Chinese medicine, herbs, acupuncture, body work, in a way that's effective in many, many cases. So it works, but it's not working because there's some magical qi flowing through the acupuncture meridians. Although there's some interesting evidence suggesting that there's something going on there in terms of impedance, resistance to current flow along those meridians that doesn't seem to be explained anatomically. So there's some pretty interesting things there that aren't fully explained by Western science either. But I'm not I haven't just wholeheartedly said, oh yeah, there's qi and there's yin and there's yang and blah, blah, blah. Those aren't things that, as they're described and as I understand them, can literally be measured in a way that makes sense with my understanding of reality. I don't have a belief in that paradigm as being the mechanistic explanation for why Chinese medicine works. Instead, you can look, and it hasn't been fully elucidated, a lot of it's sort of mysterious. You can look at the fact, for instance, that you can block a lot of the analgesic effects, the pain-reducing effects of acupuncture using compounds like naloxone, which is an opioid receptor antagonist. So there's some endogenous opioid release that occurs when you stimulate acupuncture points that reduces pain, and you can block that, you can prevent that. Yeah, that's just like one piece of Western evidence.
So the opiate blocker would stop you from getting the benefit from the acupuncture, you're saying?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
You block the pain-relieving effects with an opiate.
Okay, that makes
antagonist.
sense.
Yeah. So that's something that's going on there. There's a guy by the name of Ted Kapchuk, who I've mentioned, I think, probably previous on this podcast. I think I mentioned maybe on the Mind Pump podcast, too. He wrote a book called The Web That Has No Weaver. It's still probably the best book for someone who wants to kind of explore Chinese medicine and the concepts and get to understand. It's a phenomenal book. He wrote it decades ago now, but it's great. You can get it on Amazon. And he's well-renowned acupuncturist and TCM theoretician, I guess you could call it, but he started doing Western biological research now, looking specifically at variations in amenability to the placebo effect. So why do some people have a placebo effect, whereas others don't?
Yeah.
And there's been a number of genes. There's a review article it's like 3 or 4 years old now, that he co-wrote, where they've where they discussed the findings up to that point. I'm sure there's been more now of, I think it was something like 28, roughly around 30 different single nucleotide polymorphisms, so specific genes that have there's variations in those particular genes, have been shown to determine the extent to which placebo effects work experimentally.
Okay.
So there's like 30 different genes. If you've got one gene, one variation of that gene, one SNP, single nucleotide polymorphism of that gene, you're going to be more amenable placebo effect in that particular experimental condition than someone who has the other.
Wow.
Or one of the others.
Yeah.
Whatever they may be. And almost all of those, is like something like 26 out of 28, or almost all of those are actually targets of drugs. So
Brilliant.
drugs are interacting with the protein products expressed from those genes.
Okay.
So now we've got drugs that are interacting with the genes that are involved with the placebo effect. So we've got a drug placebo effect interaction that makes things pretty complicated.
Yeah, I could see that.
And one of the genes that's really been, I think, examined the most is catechol O-methyltransferase, COMT.
Okay.
Google that.
Yeah, that's
involved.
Dr. Dean was talking about that when I had him on and we talked about sleep. So that's where
Yeah. It's involved with dopamine metabolism.
Yes, right. Okay.
Yeah. And dopamine metabolism is involved with pleasure and those sorts of things. And so the variations in COMT, people who have lower activity of COMT will tend to have higher dopamine levels just in general. And of course, this is going to be region specific in the brain, and I can't tell you all those details. But
because they can't break it down, then is what it is. That metabolizes it or breaks it down normally,
yes.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the activity of their version of that enzyme is lower,
Okay.
meaning they have higher dopamine levels. So that creates a sort of a level of arousal. So I mean, you can think of this sort of this may be a bit of a stretch, but imagine someone who's just kind of like, oh, whatever, they're not really particularly excited about anything. Okay, yeah, whatever, I don't care. Versus someone like, oh yeah, like so I got plenty of dopamine. I like that. That's awesome. Yeah, give me more of that.
Yeah.
That's the personality type that would be associated with dopamine, higher levels of dopamine, which you might expect to be the person who'd be kind of gullible and more likely to sort of say, yeah, why not? Give me more. I'll give it a shot.
Huh. Okay.
So
and then it's susceptible to placebo.
And I haven't seen like that's a leap that I've taken with the personality type, and it helps me remember this. But there's also drugs, and actually quercetin is one that can inhibit COMT.
Huh.
So there's the possibility that you can give drugs, and I haven't seen this study. Maybe it's been done. I'll have to dig more. I'll do this maybe later today. You can give drugs that will increase your susceptibility to a placebo effect.
So you could then fix a lot of different issues just by giving somebody this drug and telling them that it's going to do whatever you need it to do.
Right. So you have a drug that does indeed have the biological effect that you want to bring about. So it's going to change your mood, or it's going to do whatever it is the drug's supposed to do.
Huh.
And that you co-administer that with a cocktail of other drugs or supplements or things that interact with those gene products in a way that will increase the likelihood of having a coupled placebo effect in addition to the pharmaceutical or pharmacological effect of the drug you've given.
Okay.
So we're giving you placebo ball and anabol.
Yeah.
Or dianabol or whatever it may be. So you can literally like be giving people inert stuff and just give them these drugs which increase their likelihood of having a placebo effect. And of course you could tailor that relative to what their genes tell you about what enzymes they have which make for the best targets relative to the placebo effect.
I could imagine how beneficial that could be for a lot of drugs I'll say for a lot of situations where we currently have drugs that have a lot of side effects. Imagine being able to treat somebody for pain with a drug like this that didn't have, like, say, the same side effects as an opiate.
Right. And acupuncture doesn't have those side effects.
Okay. Yeah.
Largely speaking. So there's that idea that there are some people, and this is the thing for me as a clinician trying to help people.
Yeah.
Someone who expectancies, what someone is expecting to have happen, are important for placebo effects. So if someone is thinking it's not going to work, and they don't have there's nothing in their mind that would cause a neurotransmitter milieu, dopamine, for instance, or whatever other things that are involved with the placebo effect, that would tend to have them believe that whatever is being done to them would possibly have an effect. It's less likely that it will.
Right. Yeah.
But and that's just a fancy way of saying if they think it will, then it's more likely that it will. If they don't think it will, then it won't. So there's the people who would come to an acupuncturist are already self-selected. You already have a biased sample there.
Yeah.
Clinically speaking, because they're coming there expecting that they've already at least made a small leap of faith, on the stages of change model. They've gone before pre-contemplators. So pre-contemplators don't even think about acupuncture. They're only thinking about exercising or whatever the health behavior may be. And there's contemplators thinking about it. And then there's early adopters like, oh, okay, I've had 4 friends that have all benefited from acupuncture for low back pain, and they all are raving about it. I'm thinking this shit might work.
Yeah.
And just that is going to increase the likelihood that they're going to have a placebo effect.
Huh, that's amazing.
And I'll take that shit. If you can help get someone out of pain because you waved your magic Merlin wand around them and created a placebo effect, that's good. Now, so that's part of it. That's why I'm just explaining like the things that, if it has to be mysterious and fairy dust to make people better, then I don't care. That's great.
Okay.
Better than drugs. I'd rather sprinkle someone with fairy dust than with pharmaceuticals.
If it works, yeah.
Their liver. Yeah, exactly. And then there's also the interesting thing, like with Chinese medicine, there's so many there's different schools of thoughts, and there's different masters that over the course of years have come up with different systems of acupuncture and different nuances on prescribing the herbs in different situations. And practitioners will gain experience over the course of years, or they'll come to believe through their experience, learning from other people and their experience clinically, that their way of doing things works really well. They become very certain of themselves. Honestly, and sometimes they're just good charlatans. That can work too. They're a good salesperson. But there's something called their Rosenthal effects, whereby this is the issue with for instance Western science, that you want to have double-blind placebo-controlled experiments. The double-blinded part, we've talked about the placebo, but the double-blinded part is that neither the subject or the experimenter knows what the condition is. So, but sometimes you can't do that. So if the experimenter knows and has an expectancy of what the outcome will be, that will impact the outcome.
Yeah.
And they may not be trying to convey that. It happens experimentally just because they kind of know, like, it's like, okay, I know I'm giving them, like, I know what this is. This is the stuff that's supposed to improve their performance.
Yeah.
So they like if I go Scott, like let's say I've got an inert substance and I've got like, the real deal.
Right.
And one time I'm like, and I know which is which. I'm like, hey Scott, here you go. And I just give that to you. And then like the next time I'm like, here you go.
All right.
I'm like, here we go. And I'm being facetious, but
I got the D-ball this time.
There'll be something you can convey things non-verbally.
Yeah.
Just like you can tell when someone's lying and they can't conceal it. Like, as hard as you're trying to stop, you're trying to lie, you're trying to like deceive someone, and you can't do it.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to conceal those things. So those things get conveyed in some way that the nuances of human interaction can pick up on.
I can't remember what the percentage is, but they say the vast majority of our communication is nonverbal. I can't remember the number, but it's ridiculously high.
More than half. I mean, it's hard to know, but a lot, right? So those are Rosenthal effects, and you can look those up. There's a whole Rosenthal was the person who first kind of documented that phenomenon. Huh. So you've got a scenario where someone's coming in expecting an effect. You've got a scenario then where the practitioner is really certain that what they're going to do is going to work.
Yeah.
And then there's the fact with herbs, of course, there's and I've seen different values on this percentage, but a large proportion, not so much now, but especially early on, of pharmaceuticals are derived from natural substances.
Sure.
We found, like white willow bark is the source of salicylic acid, and acetyl salicylic acid is aspirin. So we figured out what NSAIDs do and are, and then we came up with other COX inhibitors, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. So herbs have pharmacological actions, and if you look at like the books by Bensky and Gamble, Dan Bensky's the first name. Those are the classical books on materia medica, herbs and formulas and strategies that are used in Chinese medical school. And like just the materia medica book, literally you look up an herb, renshen, which is ginseng, and there'll be there's 30 or 40 references showing its various pharmacological actions and various things have been demonstrated in humans and things have been demonstrated in vitro and in animal models, and there's all sorts of things. So the components are there, and there are effects, and you can feel when you're taking those herbs that they're doing something, and that increases in expectancy, whether or not what they're doing is actually going to bring about the desired effect. So there's that. And there's more here too. So the other thing is that experimentally, and I'll try to make this quick, move through this, but experimentally, it's very hard to test Chinese medicine from a Western perspective, especially for like diseases, because Chinese medicine, although in China sometimes they will use sort of a Western approach and treat in that way, kind of a direct one-to-one correspondence, but in really the true traditional Chinese medicine, you're looking at a pattern of symptoms. Yeah. And someone with like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, there's like, I wrote a paper on this, who knows, depends on the probably matter of opinion, but there's like 8 different patterns of that you would describe in TCM conceptual terms, like qi stagnation, liver depression, internal heat with liver fire rising, there's blood stagnation. You can have a blood deficiency scenario. All these different types of patterns in Chinese medicine that would all correspond with someone who would have been diagnosed in Western medicine as having chronic fatigue and possibly fibromyalgia. So fibromyalgia is just muscle pain. So that's liver, qi, and blood stagnation in Chinese medicine. And you would have a whole slew of other things that could be associated with that could be causative or secondary. So when you apply Chinese medicine, let's just presume, forget all the other things I mentioned about it, not working the way that you would suggest that it would. You apply Chinese medicine, you would take each of those 8 or 10 or 12 different scenarios, you would use different herbs. Yeah. If you're a smart herbalist, that is the ecologically sound way to practice Chinese medicine. Okay. But so then if you're going to do an experiment and say, does Chinese medicine treat fibromyalgia? Well, a lot of times those experiments have done, it's like, no, we can't then we've got like this wild card of how good is the practitioner in assessing the pattern and then choosing the right herbs. We can't do a test where how many subjects are we going to have here if we're going to have 12 different formulations being tested? We're going to have hundreds of subjects. Yeah. No. Let's just give them all the same herbal formula and see if it works. It's like, let's give everyone creatine and see if it works. So imagine if someone had a performance deficit. Here's an analogy. And as a Chinese medical practitioner, as a coach or a sports scientist, you're like, that person needs creatine, that person needs caffeine, that person needs beta-alanine, that person needs L-carnitine, that person needs bicarbonate, that person needs, and you go through and you try to do an experiment and to see whether sports science improves performance, and you publish a study where you gave your subjects any of 8 different ergogenic aids. Well, that would be no fucking way. That's not acceptable science. What kind of shit is that? Give them one thing and see if it works. Right. That's not how Chinese medicine works.
Okay, I'm kind of getting lost here, though. Back to the original, but it's back to the original question. That's what I'm wondering how this ties in.
So how well does how can you trust the Western science to have properly evaluated Chinese medicine?
No.
When Chinese medicine is not practiced in a way that is amenable to scientific investigation. Okay. In the real world. Because in the real world, you pick the formula that's specific to the person.
Okay.
You don't just give everyone the same formula. But a lot of the experiments, not all of them, but many of the experiments have been, we're going to give everyone the same thing. It's like, well, no wonder creatine didn't work for the guy who eats 3 pounds of meat a day because he's already getting plenty of creatine. That's not the right ergogenic aid for him.
Okay.
This person with fibromyalgia, you gave them, they have fibromyalgia because they have blood deficiency. You didn't give them a blood boosting formula. Why would it work? You wouldn't expect it to. That would be silly. But the Western science, because of the confines of the experimental design, and the fact that you could test it still. It's not like scientific methodology couldn't test it. You'd have to have hundreds of subjects. You'd have to have this monstrous design. Or you'd have to find all the subjects. You'd have to bring in 100 and whittle it down to a dozen who all have the same TCM pattern. And then treat them that way and see if it worked. And that's just exorbitant amount of resources. It's hard enough to find subjects, period. So the nature of Chinese medicine, the bottom line here, the nature of Chinese medicine is that it doesn't lend itself well to Western scientific investigation. And that's what you find when you look at reviews and meta-analyses is the studies sucked. The studies suck. That's the problem. You can't really test it very well because the studies suck. So people say, well, the Chinese medicine hasn't been demonstrated to be effective in the Western literature. I'm like, I know, because the studies suck.
Okay.
So I'm not going to why would I believe shitty studies? And I have an idea why many of them, not all of them, but many of them are shitty. So that's one of the things that I'm not hanging my hook on good science showing that Chinese medicine doesn't work, because there's not a lot of good science, because it just good science is hard to apply to that. It's a slippery thing, that Chinese medicine, those Chinese. So but you believe, well, believe is not the word, because that was his question. How can you believe in this? Yeah, well, I've seen it clinically as a clinician.
Okay.
I've seen it as a student, and I have an understanding of how and why it would work. And here's the thing too, is that, I mean, I don't, Chinese medicine is not the answer for, and there's good and bad practitioners. Here's the thing too, chiropractors are better known probably for this. So some chiropractors who they do all sorts of weird and funky shit. And there's some charlatans out there, some snake oil salesmen. Sure. Without a doubt. And there are some acupuncturists who are not very particularly refined and sophisticated in the way they do things. And that's a whole other topic, that would keep us rambling for quite a while. And then there's some good ones that are, so there are certain things like pain related things. Chinese medicine works really, really well.
Okay.
Nausea. This happened at the Universe, actually. I don't care whether it was placebo or not, but you've seen the seasickness bands that people put around their wrist? Those press on a point called pericardium 6.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So I didn't even know this. When I was in California, and I was first exploring Chinese medicine, I just started taking some classes. I hadn't even had a class on acupuncture points. I was starting to take some herbal classes. So I was going in after, at night for night classes, and I had a day, I don't know why it was, but I was really fucking nauseated. And I drove to school, to the South Baylor University. It's in the LA area. And I got out of my car and I literally threw up. I felt that shitty. I went and saw a student, practitioner, to do just to get introduced to Chinese medicine. He's like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Man, I don't know what's going on. If I ate something, I feel awful. I'm nauseated as all hell." He's like, "Okay, hold on, lie still." He needled those 2 points while he was talking to me, and then he was going to get some more needles and figure some things out. And 5 seconds later, he's like, "How you feeling?" And I'm like, I'm not nauseated anymore. Wow. How did you do that? He's like, "That's what those points are for."
Wow. Huh.
I have used those many times with people. There was a guy, and I had to be careful because I didn't want to practice medicine on this dude, but there was a guy in the bathroom. I had just come off stage. I was done for the day, for the night, at the Team Universe, and he was just kind of squatted down in I was literally going there just to take my suit off.
Yeah.
Because I hate, being all compacted in the suit. So take my suit off and then go out and do whatever, get some food, etc. And this guy is he's not looking good.
Yeah.
He's a black guy, but he's kind of pale in the face. And I'm like, dude, you doing all right? Doing okay? And he's like, I don't know, man. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I'm dehydrated. I'm really nauseated. And I'm like, okay. You got a coach? He's like, yeah, he's out there. I said, what are you going to do? He's like, and he was in the running. It's his first call out, and he didn't want to drink any water and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I said, so what's worse? Like, are you getting cramps? He's like, I'm really, really nauseated. I said, okay, what I'd like to do, with your permission, if you don't mind, I like to press on the inner part of your wrist. This sometimes can help treat nausea. Yeah. I'd like to try to do that for you if you let me. And he's like, yeah, sure, man. So I just went. I did acupressure with his permission. 10 seconds later, I'm like, how is it? He's like, I'm not nauseated anymore.
Wow. Huh.
I'm like, good.
And that was just this past couple weekends ago, huh?
This was at the Universe. I just got done.
Yeah. Wow.
And I came off stage and I was in the bathroom. He was like right there. So I treated him like right there, and I gave him about a 2-minute treatment. Yeah. And I took my hands off and I gave him a little time and I said, hey, are you feeling okay? And he's like, yeah. I said, the nausea return? He's like, no. He's like, how long is this going to last? I'm like, I don't know. Like you're still kind of fucked up with the dehydration. So, you need to get rehydrated, etc. But anyway, talk to your coach, be safe, take care of yourself. And I hope that was helpful. So that's on the pericardium channel, which runs to the heart. The pericardium is actually a structure around the heart, but that's the channel why it's called that. Why the hell does that work? I don't know. Like there's no anatomical connection that I know of that's been elucidated with the areas of the brain that would be sensing nausea. Yeah. Or the enteric nervous system or anything like that. It works though. Shit works. That's a really powerful point. Huh. I've done that before with people. I've had people come in clinically who've had migraines, like literally like they can't open their eyes because they're so light sensitive. And I would have to lead them in and get them on the table. Huh. And knowing what their Chinese medical diagnosis was, needle them and you can end a migraine like that. No kidding. In a matter of a minute. Wow. Yes. Huh. Yeah. Depending on the type of migraine and the person, how much, how resourceful they are. Some people are a little hardy. Some people are really kind of fucked up because of what they've gone through. Okay. And I mean, person came in and they're like, okay. I'm like, how's your migraine? She's like, it's gone. Wow. I'm like, okay, so what else are we going to work on today? She's like, hold on. I'm like, well, yeah, we just got to get that out of the way. And she was like, what in the hell? That's the type. It was like that was a migraine that would hold on for like a day or two or longer. Yeah. Gone. Wow. So those are the types of things I've just seen them. I don't care why they work necessarily. I had to suspend my disbelief so much. I'm an assistant professor on a tenure track. Starting to do Western research in California. I'm going and I'm seeing these Chinese medical people. They're talking about all this woo-woo shit, this, and I know you can become a primary care physician in California as an acupuncturist. Okay, really? I'm an acupuncture physician is my legal title. If I activate my license and I can bill myself as an acupuncture physician, I can bill medical insurance, the whole thing. I can be someone. I can take care of all their medical care. Huh. I wouldn't do that. I'd refer people out for many things. But listen to all this woo-woo shit, and I'm thinking where's the friggin' evidence for this? Show me the data. I'm like, where? I don't believe this shit. Come on. But I just swallowed that, and I waited and I waited and I waited, and then I started just seeing that things can be treated really well. Sometimes people push the limits, and they do shit that doesn't is too much, and those are the bad stories you hear sometimes. But it's not so much actually with acupuncturists. I've heard more about. I'm not going to say, but I haven't heard about as many bad acupuncturists as I have about some other alternative medical practitioners. And some of it is that it's a 3,000-hour program to get licensed. Okay. That's like 4 academic years, usually compressed into 3 solid years. You go straight through. Okay. So that's as many hours as you would require to get a full college degree. It's not like going to get nothing against this. You're not getting you're not becoming a nail technician.
Right.
Like that. It's not like a few months or 9 months, or it's like most massage therapy programs are like 9 months, something like that.
Right.
This is 3 solid years.
Yeah.
This is 4 times as long. So you have to stick in there, and you have to learn a shitload. There's a lot of memorization. So I think that probably lends itself well to having practitioners who are good people, who aren't just like, just give me the license that I can go rob people of their money. It's like, they're really people who want to heal and help. People
that are committed to the idea of it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think that let me see if I've missed anything in my little answer. Like there's so much. Like I mentioned, I've treated carpal tunnel syndrome.
Yeah.
I had to go away in one treatment with my dad.
Really? No kidding.
Yeah. So
my elbow's doing better, by the way. I didn't.
Oh, good.
What didn't get any better, I was going to find somebody in acupuncture, but it did. It was already on its way to better, and now it's doing okay. But if it were to come back, that's going to be my game plan. Especially after you told me, you said like you could get this fixed in one session, one visit.
Maybe. It's funny. Like years ago, I had ART done for the first time.
Yeah.
And active release technique, and people do that. It's really well thought of as a medical massage modality. Works really well. That's what Derek, what's his name, does out in California.
Farnsworth,
yeah. A lot of people do that. It's really well established. And when I've seen that and had it done, I'm like, this looks like this person's doing the Tui Na, which is Chinese massage that I learned. Like it's like some of those. Okay, that's that technique, and that is just pretty much like that technique. And
really,
I'm like, okay, you're just like what I do as a Chinese medical practitioner doing Tui Na is so similar to ART in many, many ways.
No kidding, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I didn't know either. I was like, I think I even went in. It was like a chiropractor that I was seeing, and I said, maybe I bit my tongue. I just watched, and I'm like, holy crap, this is hilarious. It's like ART was basically a TCM ripoff. It's like you took all that stuff, and of course that happens with a lot of massage modalities. Like they all kind of can blend together a little bit. But so that's an example of a modern methodology that people trust and believe in, that's used and known really, really well. Probably better than Tui Na. People don't know that term, but that's...
I didn't know.
Push grass, what that means. And that's what I do, and it's very, very similar.
Huh. I had no idea, honestly.
Anyway, I think it's time. I see you looking.
Yes.
Getting comments on Facebook.
We've had a bunch of viewers all throughout the show, so that's definitely always awesome. And guys, for anybody who is listening now that wants to go back and check this one out, we're going to be up at the video will be on YouTube on Thursday, and of course we've got the audio podcasts. Those go up on iTunes and Stitcher and all your favorite podcast apps, as well as advicesradio.com. If you're watching this live now, the Brad Schoenfeld Swoley Trinity, that'll be out tomorrow. And I'm getting ready to eat some food and go head to the gym. Scott, are you training today?
Cool. Already trained.
Nice. Oh, because you got up at I got up at the same time as you, but I
saw that. Yeah.
I did not get any training done though.
Yeah. I got a new gym membership. It's great. It's one I'd had before. This place is like 7 minutes away.
Oh, nice.
Oh, so nice. I get when I come back home, I'm like, oh, home! I can't believe it.
Yeah,
because it could take 40 minutes sometimes to get home. So,
oh wow,
yeah,
from Powerhouse,
from the both of them. Like all the gyms are like 20, 30. It depends on the traffic, but
okay,
it's just so nice to I just zip over there. There was one guy there when I got there at like 8 or whenever it was I arrived, and then people started kind of funneling in. But
nice.
Just do whatever I want. There's no waiting. There's no no gawking. I can just friggin' train. So,
hell yeah.
I dig it. Yeah.
Well, guys, for another episode of Muscle Minds with Dr. Scott Stevenson, go to byobbcoach.com. Check out Dr. Scott's book, Be Your Own Bodybuilding Coach. And, of course, go to truenutrition.com. Use our code ADVICES. Scott, thank you as always, my friend.
You're welcome, brother. Yep. Adios, everyone.